What up, stream? Today we're gonna be doing some mock drafts, fantasy basketball, Yahoo, 10 team. Probably just gonna do 2 or 3. Nothing crazy. I just want to kickstart this season, kickstart this NBA season a little early. I like to start end of August, early September. I typically have my drafts mid-September, late September, early October. So I want to give you some insight on my strategies, what I'm doing, the settings and formats that I play, some hopefully helpful tips for you guys to jumpstart and have a successful NBA season, hopefully win some money. So to give context, if anyone on here hasn't seen me before, if you're finding my channel or this video for the first time, I'm an avid fantasy basketball player, big time, long time NBA fan. I'm a platinum ranked user in Yahoo Fantasy. Not that that really matters, and I'll explain why in a bit, but I've shifted to more of a ROTO format. It's, in my opinion, a more competitive format, especially in fantasy basketball, but I will obviously discuss and talk about head-to-head formats. Now, this will be based on all pretty much 9 category leagues. So for the most part, we're talking 9 cat leagues here, guys. Okay, 9 cat leagues. I am in a fantasy draft right now. I've preloaded a mock, Yahoo Fantasy mock. So these are all randoms. We're going to go through this. We're going to take a look and see how this looks. So, yeah, come along for the ride. I would love to get some feedback on the video. Some feedback on the video. Sorry, I just opened stream there. I would love to get some feedback on the video, feedback on what I'm saying. If you guys have any concerns, questions about players I'm choosing, players I'm prioritizing, players I'm kind of, disowning in a sense, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to leave a comment down below and subscribe if you want more. Really not going to be anything crazy. I have flipped the streams over to Kick, and going forward will be streaming exclusively on Kick, and after that, streams will be uploaded to YouTube, TikTok, all the socials. So yeah, without further ado, 36 seconds, we're going here. And basically how I'm going to break this down is every pick I make will hopefully have purpose behind it. I'm hoping that you guys can see the teams that I like to build and how I like to structure my teams. Usually hopefully makes sense to you guys, and hopefully I can explain my thought process throughout this on why I'm picking these players, why I think they're good, safe bets for the long term of the season. Players I typically will avoid, and for what reasons why I will avoid them. But I think a really common mistake a lot of people make is they get fixed on taking certain guys and building certain teams, and they end up passing on really great opportunities that come at them during draft day. One thing with fantasy drafting, you kind of got to take what's thrown at you. So this is a very, very important key aspect when you're drafting teams. No draft will ever really be the same. You're going to have a fundamental stock order of, in which these players go, but no draft will typically ever be the same. So I might be able to snag, a third, fourth round guy in round 6, 7. Or 5, 6, right? And that might not be there next time I go to draft. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. I wouldn't necessarily prioritize every single player I'm saying or taking. But when it comes to building a cohesive team, you really want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a position where you don't need to make trades day one. And maybe the trades you do make, have them make sense. Have it so it doesn't need to be, I need to trade 7 of my players away, 5 of my players away after draft day because I haven't structured and built a cohesive unit. Make it so, the trades you do make will just enhance and really develop what you're trying to do. You don't ever want to just completely change directions. Now, there's 2 types of strats when it comes to drafting, in my opinion. You can go with the strategy of taking best player available, which is typically something I like to do. I'm pretty confident in my ability to trade and make trades, make fair deals. But if you're in a league that you don't think you can get a deal done, this is a public league, you don't talk to these guys a lot, first year playing with these guys, you don't know if you have that rapport to make these deals, I would say try to build a cohesive team that isn't going to rely on trading. There have been so many years in the past 3-4 seasons that I've played where there's always one or two teams in the top 3, top 4 that haven't made pretty much any deals. So don't think like, oh, if I don't trade, I'm screwed for the year. No, it's not going to be like that. You can build a cohesive team on draft day, stick with it, and do very, very well. Now, trading can be beneficial, and sometimes you're going to get a deal or an offer you can't refuse, as me and my buddies would say. I'm going to send you an offer you can't refuse. And if you get that kind of an offer, well, then obviously you have to see it through. But don't ever feel like you need to accept a deal. Oh my God, that's so loud, guys. Don't ever feel like you need to accept a deal and it's going to be crucial to your team succeeding. That's so loud. Turning off draft sounds. Okay. Draft started. Obvious number one pick here is Nikola Jokic. Without a doubt. Nikola Jokic, easy number one pick. Making sure the stream's running. And that's in pretty much all formats. I think if you don't take Jokic number one, you're a fool, quite frankly. There's no reason not to take Nikola Jokic number one. And he will go number one by default. Joel Embiid, I think that's a solid second round pick. I mean, obviously people will say the injury scare. Some people might lean more Luka Doncic. I think this top 3 for me, especially in 9 category leagues, ROTO leagues, head-to-head leagues, this is pretty solidified. Jokic, Embiid, Doncic. I think that's a safe bet for this top 3. Okay, so we have a user by the name of Raps Fan who's actually not here. I'm guessing Jason Tatum will go to him by default, which he does. All right. Now, Giannis, it's 5. So if I'm playing in a ROTO format, I think it's important to note this before I make my pick. I'm probably not touching Giannis in that first round, especially in ROTO leagues. It puts me at too big of a disadvantage in free throw percentage. Head-to-head leagues, I think it's fine as long as you're building around him. Now, up here at the top, I'm really looking at 3 guys. Since this is a redraft league, I'd probably bank on either Steph Curry, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or Tyrese. For sake of argument, I'm going to take Tyrese Halliburton. I think it's a safe pick. He's proven the last 2 seasons that he really is capable of first-round talent, first-round value. For me, if we're drafting this like it's a ROTO league, one really big reason I love Tyrese Halliburton is because he's got an incredible assist-to-turnover ratio. It's the best in the NBA. I'm pretty sure it's the best in the NBA. It was last year at least. He's not going to really hurt you anywhere. He's not the best scorer. So if I take someone like Shai Gilgeous or Curry, obviously I'm going with more of a scoring team, a scoring build. But for this structure, I'm for all intensive purposes, let's pretend we're playing a 9-category ROTO league here. I'm taking Tyrese Halliburton, and I'm building around him. Great assists, great field goal percentage, great free throw percentage. Elite, obviously, with turnovers, like I said. He's going to get you triples. He's going to get you a little bit of defense in terms of steals. So it's a safe overall first pick, and for the most part, he plays, and he's relatively healthy. So I'm totally fine with taking Tyrese at 6 this season. I don't see anything wrong with it. Now, in a head-to-head format, I'd probably lean Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, maybe Steph Curry. We can get into that. Obviously, if you're playing with 3-point percentage, Tyrese is a really, really good pick. But it all comes down to, again, dialing in on that format you're playing. Is this a ROTO league? Is this a head-to-head league? Are we looking at head-to-head the end of the year? How's your playoff structure? When do your playoffs begin? When are you going to need to rely on these guys? One thing I think it's really important to talk about here, especially when head-to-head leagues, is the whole year is basically a fight for positioning and then playoffs. In ROTO, your whole year is accumulated stats, and it all is accounted for based on the games played, right? So that really comes down to this position. Now, with my next pick here, I've already gone with Tyrese Halliburton. I'm looking at the board. I'm avoiding Jaren Jackson Jr. I really don't like him here. You've heard a lot of fantasy guys talk about this, right? Very, very, very definitive blocks guy. Without those block numbers, I don't see him going in this position. Now, it is my turn on the board. Come draft day, I mean, James Harden is a huge risk. He's definitely got that upside. Donovan Mitchell is probably who I'm leaning here. If you want to have kind of a fun, more risky pick, I think you could definitely consider Anthony Edwards here. In my personal opinion, I'm a big Ant Edwards guy. I love the FIBA stuff. I love what I'm seeing. But for me, I'm making this pick Donovan Mitchell. He fits beautifully with Tyrese Halliburton, in my opinion. Those triples, that free throw, he's not going to hurt your field goal too much. So as much as I love Anthony Edwards and I want to play into this kind of FIBA ball tournament, I'm not going to neglect Karl Anthony Towns, who is actually someone that I am going to try to snipe here with my third pick. So if he makes it to me, that's great. I don't want to be reliant on that, but I think a Tyrese Halliburton, Donovan Mitchell backcourt, especially in a roto format, really, really, really strong. Really, really strong. Make sure we're still going here on stream. So yeah, this is kind of how I'm building. And again, I'm trying to keep things cohesive. I'm trying to have it make sense. I'm trying to not lose myself in the moment, which, I love Ant. I think he's great. Personally, I think I'm still taking Donovan just based on what Donovan did last year, what Donovan's capable of. I think Edwards will have a great year, probably a breakout year, but I think best case scenario, he kind of does what Donovan did last year. Now, can Donovan repeat what he did last year? That's probably the bigger question at hand. Personally, I think he can, but, it might not be quite as eye-popping, you could say, but I think it's definitely a safe pick, especially around 15. So, yeah, going with that Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Halliburton backcourt, guys. Again, just checking chat, making sure everything's good here. We are brand new to Kick, so this is going to take some time to establish on Kick, but really what I'm doing this more for is the content, the recording, the YouTube, the aftermath, and seeing what you guys think of these drafts. And if you guys want more of these, feel free to let me know. Feel free to let me know if you want me to do a bigger than 10-team count. Typically, I play in 10-team leagues, but I'm open to doing 12, 14-team mock drafts as well if that's what you guys want to see. So just keep me posted. So looking at the board here, when it comes to my next pick, I do have a few options at hand. I think personally for me, would be a no-brainer Karl Anthony Towns pick if I can snag him here. Again, I'm not really someone who's going to look at last year and be totally put off by what happened with the injury situation. I think if you're looking at Karl Anthony Towns as a whole over his career, he's been relatively healthy most of the time. I think if you look at that play-in tournament and what he was doing and how good he looked in that play-in tournament, and even what he's done in FIBA, being kind of a bit of a silent killer in this FIBA tournament, I think, what pick is this? 26? Grabbing Karl Anthony Towns here to pair with Tyrese and Donovan Mitchell just makes a lot of sense for my team. So I'm going to play him there. It will automatically put him at the power forward position. Keep this in mind when you're drafting, guys. Karl Anthony Towns, as of now, has power forward center eligibility. Don't feel like now I need to draft two centers because Yahoo's put him in that power forward slot or that forward slot, right? Like, as of now, Karl Anthony Towns very much can be played at the center position until further notice, until that changes. We obviously don't know. Maybe they only give him power forward because of the Gobert placement. I'm talking a lot here, and I don't have my next pick. But you know what? Looking at the board, again, team fit, what I'm going for, what I'm looking at, I'm really debating between three guys right now. It would probably be between DeJounte Murray, again, fits my build, Porzingis, the injury does scare me, De'Aaron Fox, Cade Cunningham, Chet Holmgren. These are all great picks. I think for me personally, I'm cool with taking DeJounte Murray here. I'm really going to hammer in on those guard stats. I really want those assists, those low turnovers, those steals, and those percentages. Like, again, DeJounte fits the mold. Tyrese, Donovan, DeJounte. It's a perfect cohesive fit with that field goal percentage, that free throw percentage, those steal numbers, those low turnover numbers. I'm really, really happy with how this team's being built, especially in a roto format so far. And as these auto picks, keep doing their thing and we work our way down the board, this isn't perfect, but hopefully we can get kind of an idea for how things pan out here. With my next pick, I'm probably going to be looking at a forward or a big. My turn on the board. Mm, let's see here. Like guys, I'm avoiding. Aiton, avoiding. Jordan Poole, not high on him. Not willing to sacrifice that field goal. I like the idea of Levine. He does fit my build. OG, I could really dial in those steals. I think out of respect and just what they've done, especially last year, I got to go with Jaylen Brown. Free throw's not going to be the best, but he'll fit inside that realm of my field goal. Cohesiveness with that field goal percentage. Lower turnover guy, high scoring, good amount of triples. He'll get you some rebounds. Yes, the free throw's not there, but the field goal's great. And especially at that volume, right? Because field goal is also relative to volume. How much is a guy shooting for it to impact your team? That's why a guy like Zion is such a big piece. Again, talking a lot. I could use a big here. Definitely could use a big here. But I'm not going to get too caught up on it. I think what makes sense for my team as of now, and just based on me taking a bit of a riskier pick, I'm going to go with Alperen Şengün. Really like this kid. Really like what I've seen last year. Liked what I've seen in FIBA. I think at this position where I took him, it makes a lot of sense, especially to get kind of my second center in there. I probably will move Cat down to my second center and now just be looking kind of more at the forward position and getting my util in play. My turn to draft. So now this falls into my realm of who's available at your pick, and will that fluctuate and change on the fly? Do I make a change on the fly based on what I'm seeing? My short answer is yes. I think Bradley Beal here, especially running that point guard for the Phoenix Suns, he's a great fit. Like everything I've talked about, field goal, free throw, the assists. I think obviously, he's probably not going to be Bradley Beal Washington, but to get Bradley Beal at 66, throw him in my util, have that as a backup point guard option, especially this year. They're running him at the point guard position. Keeping my field goal just absolutely elite and through the roof, I think is a really, really good fit for me. Okay. What am I doing here? I could use a forward. Really don't give you too much time on these Yahoo mock drafts. I think for me, I'm going to go reach down the board here a bit and take Middleton. Again, fits my build. Disappointing year last year, but let's go look at the playoffs. He was averaging pretty close to his last 3-4 year averages at around 23, 5 and 5 in the playoffs. Mind you, he's got a lot of injury history with the knee, so it's a bit of a riskier pick, but I'm pretty confident in my team and, looking at the kind of injury history of my squad to take a risk like this. It's a very settled down risk. And for a guy like Middleton to produce, top 30, 40 value possibly at where I'm grabbing him, I think it makes a lot of sense for my team. So that's who I'm going to go with here. Again, I can move Cat down to this center position, so I don't necessarily need to be looking at a center here. I can possibly be looking at a power forward, which also could be Middleton, right? So we can talk about rookies, and obviously a guy like Victor, Scoot. I'm probably avoiding a guy like Scoot Henderson for now until I see how this Dame Lillard stuff pans out. I think a guy like Victor can make sense in the first 5 rounds. For 4 rounds even, maybe you can make an argument for. But in terms of what I need right here, we really don't have much time. I'm going to go for another guard here. I want to keep these triples strong. Nah, you know what? I'm actually going to go here. I'm going to go Jakob Poeltl, Toronto. His free throw is atrocious, but here's the thing with his free throw, guys. Something very important to keep in mind. How many are they shooting, and is it going to impact you? A guy like Giannis, why he hurts your free throw so much is because you really don't have that flexibility with volume. And when the volume's high, like with a guy like Giannis, it's really going to hurt. A guy like Poeltl attempting 2 a game, it's not going to be as detrimental, right? So here... So somewhat like this, I'm cool with going with Anthony Simons. I'm taking a big hit on the field goal, but you know what? I'm not worried about it based on the team I've built. It's got elite field goal. I want to get those triples up. especially with guys like Şengün Pirtle. So I'm cool to take that pick and get a guy like Simons. Now, at this point of the draft, something to keep in mind. Again, seeing who fell to me. A guy like Klay Thompson, I'll typically reach for a guy like Klay in probably the round previous. I wouldn't mind reaching for a guy like Klay. In this round, I think it's kind of a no-brainer pick. A guy like Klay, I personally feel like, obviously depending on the format and the league you play, but I feel like a guy like Klay can always be bundled or included or even just traded by himself for pretty good value. He's one of those names that people just like having. He's obviously elite with triples, hitting 4 a game. So, yeah, he's going to hurt your field goal like crazy, and he's really not going to do much outside of the 3 points and a bit of scoring. But I'm cool to take him there just based on trade value and what I can possibly get for him. This is where it gets really, really tricky, especially with the time. So I'll take a guy like Russell Westbrook again, simply for trade value. In a Roto league, I'm probably not even going to be activating Russell Westbrook all that much, and I really don't have enough time to really talk and gather my thoughts here with these auto picks. That's kind of what's hurt my ability to look at the board here and really scope out a good pick in these last few rounds. But I will say some closing points after this. Call me crazy. I don't care. That's fine. It's a last pick flyer. A guy like Ben Simmons will ride my pine. Probably won't play. Maybe he can throw together a month of really good consistent value, playing defense, high rebounds, high assists, and end up being a trade asset for me. So who knows? That's not a problem for me at that pick. I didn't really have a whole lot of time to gather my thoughts and really just expand on what I wanted to talk about. So maybe I can now kind of break down my thought process on this team. And again, I was drafting like this was more of a Roto team. So keep that in mind when you're watching this back. But yeah, here we go. Let's go through kind of my thought process on these picks. Maybe we can actually get a grid here. Okay, so let's take a look at this grid. We have 10 minutes to kind of chill in this lobby and discuss some closing points. Obviously, Jokic at number 1 makes a whole lot of sense, and Embiid 2, Luka 3. I think we can all pretty much agree that this top 4, for the most part, including JT. Now, you could obviously replace JT here with like an SGA, a Tyrese, whatever you want to do. But I think for the most part, this is the top 3 that I've been seeing in head-to-head in Roto leagues, right? Jokic at 1, Embiid or Luka at 2, and then you flip these based on maybe the format of the league you're playing or just personal preference. When I get to 4, 5, 6, I really do like Tatum, Tyrese, SGA, Steph Curry, guys like this. Obviously, you can make an argument for a guy like KD, who a lot of people will say is injury prone. But I mean, if you're playing in a Roto league, doesn't get much better than KD. Obviously, Phoenix, there's a lot of mouths to feed, but KD is typically a pretty safe bet on any team he's ever been on, and he will pretty much do what he always does. I'm cool with my pick of Tyrese here at, 6? I'm fine with that. I could easily have made an argument for SGA or Curry. It really just depends on kind of the route I'm trying to take. Based on my assist numbers, what I was trying to do with that, I think Tyrese made a whole lot of sense for me. Also, just a big fan of his game, the way he plays. Really liked what I saw in FIBA. And just the assist-to-turnover ratio, the good defensive numbers. I just think he's not even done growing as a player yet, so it made a lot of sense to me. Coming on the back end of this draft, right, we got Steph Curry. I think if you can steal Steph Curry at 8, that's a really good pick. Kevin Durant at 10 as well, very good pick. Dame, obviously, there's a lot of this drama with the Portland situation. I don't think it's as drastic as we think. Dame Lillard doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's not going to play when given that chance, when given that opportunity. Now, there might be a little bit of downtime in terms of maybe finding a deal. How long this takes, I don't know. But I think it's a lot less risk than a guy like, for instance, our second-round pick here, James Harden. This seems very early for Mikal Bridges. For me personally, I see Mikal Bridges maybe more as like a mid-second round guy. I don't think I would draft Oh, sorry, because we're going this way. That's my mistake. Sorry. So we're coming back around this way. So that's end of the second round. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, that's fine. I'm fine with that. That's my mistake. So this guy went with KD LaMelo, comes back to AD. So that's to me a very worthwhile gamble. A guy like Davis, obviously the injury risk, but I mean you're getting possibly a top 5 player. Kyrie, I think, is a really, really solidified pick. I think this pairing of Steph Curry and Kyrie is a really great tandem. I think that's a really smart move. And you know what? Even looking at this SGA pick and then the Jaren Jackson pick, as much as I don't like the Jaren Jackson pick, maybe there, if you look at how he's built his team, like look at these picks: SGA, Triple J, Jimmy, Drew, OG. He's really gone defense, so he's actually played into a very, very, very cohesive structure. So this actually does make a whole lot of sense. He's probably not winning threes, right? But he's definitely probably winning steals. Tell you that much. Coming back to me, I took Donovan to pair with Tyrese. Really like this tandem together. Made a lot of sense for me. Ant Edwards was the other guy I was looking at who went right after, so not too crazy on that. Devin Booker, I don't have a problem with. Fred VanVleet, I think, will have an opportunity to do his thing. I'm not sure about, taking him over a guy like Harden, even a guy like McHale, even over a guy like Sabonis. I don't see it, personally. The field goal percentage, I love Freddie, but I just don't see him there. I see him more as kind of a third-round guy at best, right? Moving in here, Kawhi Leonard, I don't know if I'm taking him over Sabonis. Desmond Bane, I know there's been a lot of hype, but again, over guys like Laurie, over guys like LeBron James, over guys like Karl Anthony Towns, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. That's just me. I went with Karl Anthony Towns as my third pick. I think that's fine. I think that's a really, really good value for him. Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Trae Young here at the end of the third, I think is great value. Pascal Siakam, end of the third, could be good value. And obviously, this is when we start to see Victor go, fourth round. This could be a very good pick. It could be an okay pick. It could be a trash pick. It's really hard to know with Victor. I think at the start of the fourth round, it's probably the round he's going to go in, and you're probably not getting him at the end of the fourth. So I think for this guy right here, if he wanted Victor on his team, this is where you got to take Victor. So to me, it makes sense to take him there if that's where you want him. Miles Turner, obviously for blocks. Jalen Brunson, that's fine. Drew Holiday, DeJounte Murray is what I went with. I was debating between DeJounte or Cade myself, I believe. I think I'm fine with DeJounte just based on the field goal and the percentages. Cade, I think, has a little bit more upside with the situation in Detroit. Bam, it's fine in the fourth round. Vooch, probably the same thing. Porzingis is just injury history, but he's actually got second, third round upside. Who do we got here? Walker Kessler. Not so sure I like that in the fourth round. That's to me more of like a fifth round guy. I think I'd be leaning more to a guy like Chet, or maybe even a guy like Mobley for me personally. But if it pans out, it pans out. You have to remember John Collins is there now. And his fantasy value strictly relies on blocks, right? Darius Garland at the start of the fifth round, I think, is great value. Chet Holmgren, I think, could be a really, really good pick there. De'Aaron Fox, I think, is great value. Ingram, we got to see with the injury. When he plays, I like him. But again, not really a three-point shooting guy. Not really going to get you too much numbers outside of scoring. Some good field goal. He will get you maybe a few assists. His defense is lackluster. Jaylen Brown, my logic was field goal. Pair that with my team. OG, Jamal, DeRozan. This looks pretty in tune. Zach LaVine, Scotty Barnes, Claxton. I mean, this is I'm probably a little bit more comfortable going for a guy like Claxton in round, 6, than a guy like Kessler in round 4. That's just me. DeAndre Ayton, wait and see. Not a huge fan, especially with the Phoenix situation. Jordan Poole could be value. Probably going to destroy your field goal, but could be value. I went with Şengün. A lot of mouths to feed in Houston, but I like the upside. I needed a big. So just going through this list as of now, from what I'm seeing, I don't see anything that's standing out as anything too crazy. Obviously, you can look and say, like, maybe this guy should have went around sooner, around later, but for the most part, this is pretty standard. I think Yahoo is pretty bang on with their rankings, at least early out the gate. Now, rankings are always a come to change. You got preseason, and we had Summer League, and obviously FIBA. There's a lot of stuff that could change these rankings, but for the most part, this looks pretty accurate to me. This looks pretty accurate to me. So, I'm going to go ahead and say this is a pretty realistic draft. I'm pretty happy with the team I've built, especially in a 9-cat format. I would love to hear what you guys think of this team. Some people might not see maybe Tyrese Halliburton as a top 6 pick. Some people might not want to take the risk on Karl Anthony Towns in round 3. To me, this is great value. But I am curious to see what you guys think of this team I've built. I will probably end this video here and stream here and kind of conclude this as my first draft of the year, my first mock draft of the season. Wish it was a little bit more user-filled. We had some computers jumping in, and it cut off my train of thought. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know how many leagues you guys are playing in this year. If you have any questions or recommendations or anything you'd like to see from me or hear from me. If you have questions on guys, I'd love to hear them. I'd love to answer them. And feel free to leave that in the comment section down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's going to be a really fun fantasy year. I'm excited to play fantasy basketball. I'm excited for the new season. And I'm excited for what this year has in store. So until next time, peace out, guys.